don't control, stay don't control, stay don't control, stay with the real, those what the need, aim with the real, they what is real, don't rush with me, stay with the dog, stay with the dog, those that are wrong, I'm not taking, stay don't control, stay don't control, stay don't control, stay don't control. Careful what you say or you'll get better.
Nice.
Welcome to Three Tortured Souls. I love that. It's so good. We've got like our own musical director and editor, and
Thanks, Dave.
I know.
Anytime. It's fun.
That is awesome.
Yeah, I love it. Especially at the end.
I've got the joyous occasion of hosting tonight. Yes. So we had an idea of doing the witchcraft at the end of last week because it seemed like a lot of people were interested in that. Quickly became like, I think Dave and I both, probably Kenny. I know Dave and I chatted about it. It was huge. It's a big topic. So
big topic. Yeah.
There were so many different directions. We kind of just went off on another idea, and I think it's a really good idea, actually. We've got something coming up. I think we're going to do next week. If I'm mistaken, you guys correct me. But going back to our crying statues episode, we've all taken up the challenge of trying to figure out how to make our statues cry or weep magically. And we're going to try to get that to happen next week on the show. But while we were talking about it, we thought, why not? We'll just do like a little bit of what we've done so far, maybe, and shoot out some questions or answer some questions about how we would try to set up ways to test paranormal claims. I think if you want to kind of see what it's like when we message each other, this is probably going to be the closest as to what it's like when we're going back and forth, going, what about this? And how are you going to do that? And then the side notes we have is like, hey, look at this. I'm going to get vicared. I think two of us are going to get vicared this evening. So you'll get kind of a shot of like what it looks like back there while we're planning out stuff on how to test paranormal claims. So if you've got any, fire away.
Yeah. Oh, we got him. JD's
got one already.
I know, JD. I was like, oh, yeah.
Down the bell. What do we got? Right out of the gate. Let's pretend I practice magic.
First one, son.
All right. I can't stand the silence. Right out of the gate. Let's pretend. I started to read. I wasn't sure. Let's pretend I practice magic and I place a curse on someone. Misfortune befalls that person, and I claim it's a result of my curse. How would you test whether I have the power to curse people? So, well, I mean, the best thing to do is to if it's possible, I would say you'd have to do a specific curse, like with a specific outcome, not just bad luck, because that's too general, that's too subjective. Right. Because I mean, every day you think about what happens to you every day, good things, bad things, shitty things, but really cool things. I mean, like over yesterday, day before, I mean, I had a great day because I got awesome gifts in the mail, like a whole bunch of shit came to me, and I was like, oh my god, this is the greatest day of my life. It's like Christmas. And then I go to work and I have a shitty day. So does that count as bad or good, or what does that count? So I would say the first thing for me, you'd have to have something specific, like you're going to curse me, and on this day I'm going to contract this disease or a rash or something like that. It has to be specific.
I would add that the measures of what's good or bad has to be set too. Just like you said, is a bad day considered a win, or is it considered? I mean, in my life, a bad day is pretty common, so it really wouldn't mean anything. So I think the measurements would have to be set out too. Like, what are you going to like? What is a bad? Like, what is your curse? Like, what is it?
Right.
Yeah, you'll definitely have to define what it is you're doing, and the more specific the curse, the better, as Kenny said. But I think you also need to follow a couple people. You either don't curse or you put the opposite on. Like maybe Kenny, you say a bad one for Kenny, good one for Tim. And I think you need to do it with more than just one or two people. So you might want to get an entire group of people you can put a curse on and see how many people it happens to. And then you'd have a control group of friends or people that you don't do anything to.
Right.
See what happens.
And then you have a group of people that you don't say anything to them, curse or no curse, and just follow them around with a notebook and see what happens.
That would be that just reminded though, you said don't say anything to the people. You can't say anything to any of them. Because if you say something to them, that'll influence the outcome and maybe what they perceive as a curse.
Right.
And then what the outcome is, especially if you're vague and very of the type of curse and thing that's supposed to happen to them.
Yeah, I mean, Carol mentioned that I fell down the stairs last weekend.
Well, you're probably drunk, so.
I mean, even though that's a good assumption, it was not. It was actually like it was in the morning. I was up. I was not still drunk, just to clarify. And I came down the stairs and I wasn't paying attention. I was still kind of tired. And we have wooden steps with those little carpet rectangles that you tack on, but it doesn't cover the entire step. And I just stepped out too far. The heel of my sock hit the wooden edge, and boom, I went down. So some might say, yeah, because I had asked for someone to curse me. Nobody ever took up the challenge. I don't know if somebody did, but even with that, like, okay, you can say, yeah, that's a bad thing that you fell down the stairs. But I can also say it's also good because I didn't die, first of all, because I came down like 3/4 of the steps. I took a pretty good tumble, but I also didn't break anything either. On the way down, I literally landed on my forearm here.
Right.
And between that and my heels, that's the only thing that was touching, and I went all the way down on that. So this was a little swollen, a little bit. It was like a big bump, but I was fine, So
you could argue that you were lucky.
Yeah, it could have been worse.
In all honesty, that could have been really bad.
I could have slipped back and cracked the back of my head, back of my neck. That would have been really bad. All kinds of things, but I'm fine. I mean, I'm walking around. I'm breathing, so I'm good.
You lived.
I think the thing with time frames for me, why that comes into my mind was I watched a show one time, and it had to do with, I think it was like the Bog Man. I think that's what they called him. They unearthed the mummy somewhere where it used to be frozen, but then it wasn't. And then the ground thawed, and they found this mummy. But apparently there was a curse on it. I'm not sure. I can't remember the show. I can't remember how it got to be that there was a curse on it. But in the show, it literally said, everybody that worked on recovering that mummy or that mummified corpse had died, including like the last one that died 20 some years in a car accident. And watching that, I thought, how can you even like where does that even come into play? Like you would say, aha, that's the curse. You died 20 some years after that. That's the curse. Like it was so bewildering to me. Like it actually began making me think about curses and different things like that. And pretty much like, it's interesting what JD talked about, because I had thought a lot about that before. But 20 some years, like, I mean, you're just playing the odds, man. You're like a life insurance salesman.
Well, yeah, that's it. You need to take a look at, obviously sex, age. Then they have all these life tables that people have calculated of your risk of dying in so many years and your risk of dying of a certain thing. And then you start looking at that, and you can actually start probably working out some probabilities, but it's going to be really hard when you're 20 years out to say you died of that curse.
Right.
Because how many people in your age and your specific circumstance die of whatever you died of? Right. So it's not, to you, it might, in your family, it might seem meaningful because you've assigned the curse to it.
Yeah.
However, you start looking at the numbers and you're like, well, they didn't die of anything too extravagant or too highly unlikely to begin with. So how could you even say it was the curse? To me, it would be the curse would have to decrease the probability of something happening that normally would or by chance.
Yeah.
And it's really hard sometimes to calculate what those probabilities are, because there's some people just don't sit around here and go, well, let's figure out how many times Kenny Biddle will fall down the stairs in 5 years.
Right.
Well, then, okay, we don't know that, but how many people fall down the stairs every day? It's a lot.
Right. So and then the other factors involved, what are the stairs made of? Are they level? What are you wearing?
Yeah,
you know,
if you only have socks on, you're going to slip.
Yeah. So, but I think it comes down to like almost a confirmation bias. You know, you have also a selection bias, because it's once you assign a curse to it, it's like there's movies like Poltergeist and The Omen and stuff. They have alleged curses associated with it. So anyone that died either during or after or way after the production is blamed on the curse, because once you get that in your head, it's there.
Right.
So when we're talking about, you know, did somebody curse me? All right. As a guinea pig, did someone curse me? We don't know. So right
somebody
there,
did.
That's not a test.
Yeah. And boy, you'd almost have to record what the curse was to be safe and have a third party independent person hold on to that. So the person can't come back and say, oh yeah, I did curse him to fall down the stairs. There, prove my point. Right. And then have a group of people independently analyze the event that supposedly happened to Kenny and see if it fit with what the curse was meant to do. Yeah. And it has to be specific, like we talked about before. So there's ways to do it. It actually, it's a good thought exercise, and it would take quite a bit of planning and probably some probability statistics, as Carol said. That's what I was getting at, to figure out if it really was due to chance or not.
Yeah.
Because we all know there's a lot of people that fall downstairs every damn day.
Yeah. Yeah. And again, like you said, Dave, I mean, it comes down to specifics. We have to know what the outcome is going to be. You can't just say something bad is going to happen, because I can say that about every fucking person on the planet, and it will come true. I'm not psychic. I'm not cursing. I'm not, you know, I don't have magic powers. It's just a fact. It's going to happen. And then again, it comes back to the interpretation of bad, right? You know, if I get a paperclip, that's bad, because that shit hurts like hell. But
that might be worse than falling down the stairs.
Yeah, you know, like that's bad. That's something that's bad that happened. You know, if someone misses their bus to go to work, that's bad.
Or is it good if the bus ended up in an accident and a bunch of people got hurt? Well, whoa, I got lucky as hell on that one.
I mean, yeah.
On the way, on your walk to home, on your walk to work, you found $100 bill on the ground. I mean, it's even, you know, even better.
Yeah, I'm all for that.
You survived a crash and got $100.
I like your way of thinking.
What a deal.
Well, you know, they say like everybody that every day someone says the world's going to end tomorrow. I mean, one of them's going to be correct at some point.
You know? Yeah, I mean, what like 3 or 4 years ago, we had so many end of the world predictions. We actually started having parties.
2012, was that it?
I think that was one of them, and then we had that church guy, that cult leader guy. That was he had two predictions in 1 year. Yeah, we partied all night for that week for the end, but nothing happened.
So let's see. Carol,
so it was a good night.
My brother thinks we have a family Labor Day curse, 2 broken backs, coming down with a fatal illness, suicide, different years, probability in one family, 9+ nieces, nephews, Labor Days.
So did this all happen on?
But people usually, I mean, what my question, first one would be, how did they break their back? Because usually on Labor Day, I don't know about you guys, but we're either with family or friends or out doing something. that
Right.
involves the potential of falling or breaking your back. Fatal illness. I mean, there's a lot. Actually, there's a fair number of studies that show around the holidays, people tend to have more heart attacks and stress-related events or depression and suicides because it is a holiday.
Yeah.
It brings out more stress or you
Work.
have another one that was interesting. You have a long holiday and then you have to go back to work on Monday, and the stress levels, because you have to go back to work, go up. So they've actually looked at some of that stuff. But yeah, I mean, well, like Carol said, you probably could run some numbers on that and see what it would be. Heaven's Gate, that's it.
Heaven's Gate. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, other things like usually long weekends like that, it's either you're going away on vacation, so there's a lot of people traveling, or it's a chance to get stuff done around the house. So you're going to work on things, and yeah, you put yourself at risk for injury. We don't know all the specifics,
the details.
too. I mean, there's a lot of details that are open. Did it happen on did it happen on Labor Day, or did it happen a day before, day after, a couple days, or that weekend, whatever? I mean, those are things we have to look at too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, when we've been out on the boat on the lake on Labor Day, there's some really dumbass jet ski people out there that probably broke some backs here and there through the years easily.
Right.
Yeah, I just wanted to look at that again, though. I think you could look at like I think both of you guys kind of hit on it, but what's your family Labor Day like celebrations? How many Labor Days have everybody spent together?
I mean, yeah. Are you having like one of them derby races? Like, do you get together and have one of those where everyone's in cars like crashing into each other, or what?
Yeah, like what are you guys doing?
Yeah.
She responded.
As far as the coming down with the fatal illness, though, is that when they really knew? Is it when they told the family, or did they also have the underlying fatal illness well before that, and the symptoms just popped up on that day, or that's when you decided to tell people?
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of that stuff, it's already in the system. It's already in your system and start by the time you get it diagnosed. Because that's usually why it gets diagnosed. You start feeling something wrong, or something does go wrong, and you go to the hospital or doctor to get checked out.
Yeah, and again, like we talked about before with the broken backs, the gym, I mean, even the accident at the gym or the bizarre car accident. I mean, you could look, I would think there's a database somewhere, I don't know, but you could generate one. You really could figure out how many bizarre car accidents, whatever type it was, that happened on Labor Day. I mean, there's a way to collect the data. I don't know if it exists, but there are ways to collect it.
Right.
And the gym bar fell. Yeah, I mean, they're interesting. They are, I mean, depending on how bizarre the car was, but yeah, the gym bar falling on somebody. But I'm going to be honest with you. I watched that show Ridiculousness, and I see dumbasses dropping barbells on themselves all the time.
Yeah.
I'm not saying your family person was a dumbass. I'm saying these people I'm not saying that. I'm just saying I've seen it happen on that show, and I don't know. I mean, I've seen it. I mean, to me, math wise, I'd love to be able to have enough data to figure out what the probability of that is. That would be cool.
I've seen that at the gym when I used to go. I've seen it a lot. Yeah, the guys that work on, not just the guys, some of the girls too, on the weights, the free weights and stuff, doing dumb shit like that. But also like martial arts training. I mean, I loved it, absolutely loved it. But I mean, surprise, I got a little cocky sometimes, and I would do stupid shit. That I'm amazed that I'm not more injured than I was. Just fighting and stuff, doing stupid shit, trying things like, let me see if this works. Nope, did not work. Got hurt. I'm gonna crawl off the mat now, and just huddle in the fetal position. But people do dumb shit, and it's just not. Stuff happens. So
I want to, again, when she said fatal, it was sudden, puking bile, rushed to the hospital, blocked intestine. But how do you know that intestine wasn't blocked before that? And maybe it was a mass amount of eating on Labor Day. Maybe it's what you were doing on Labor Day that
Something he ate, yeah.
made it worse and really caused a problem. I don't know. But I mean, it makes you think. It's all on the same day. Okay. But
Well,
it'd be worth picking that apart and trying to see, is it just happening or is there a trend to it that's significant?
And I mean, since it's a holiday and families are coming together, that's when families talk. I mean, I don't know about your families, but my family gets together. I hear about medical problems. You hear about shit like that. But maybe it's because of the gathering of the family that something's noticed, or somebody finally says, hey, you need to get checked out now, and do that. And that's what's going to happen when you have these big get-togethers. People start noticing, you start talking about your life and things that happen, and other people throw in their input. So, I mean, if you live alone, you're not going to have anyone to give you advice like that. But family gatherings, I don't know. But yeah, I don't. She said a good day to stay in bed. I mean, hey,
nothing wrong with that thought process.
Yeah,
there's another
in bed.
Okay.
I'm just saying, but to predict or no, to test a curse. I mean, we're kind of like a rough cut. Make a specific prediction.
Yeah.
Decide how you're going to measure the outcome.
Right.
Have a third party do that measuring, or at least review, and use 3 people or 3 groups. Right? We missed something? I mean, it's kind of...
No, I mean, that's the
we're
basic.
all going, yeah, I mean...
Yeah, don't tell the people and have somebody independently analyze it.
Right.
That's kind of blinded to the whole thing.
So if you don't tell the people that you curse and then you follow them around, is that ethical?
Oh, that goes back to our show on ethics. Probably not.
Ethics.
It's gonna have to be a little curse, like a wood splinter that doesn't give you an infection and kills you.
Oh my God, that's
just write it down. We skipped ethics, but it's cool.
Why is that guy following me with a notebook? Never mind.
Never mind. Not doing anything.
Okay. Question. Since I'm working on researching and writing for podcast episodes on demonic possession and exorcism, let's say best case scenario, all 3 of you are offered to attend an exorcism under strict controlled conditions. What would you do or bring along?
Ooh.
Oh.
This is fun.
JD understands us.
Right off the bat, just a F with them. I'd bring some holy water that's been blessed and some that hasn't, and see if they respond.
Yep.
A religious object that's been blessed and one that hasn't, to see if they would respond. That'd be right off the bat, just to have fun. I think I'd bring, obviously, a lot of high quality camera, video, and still photography equipment, very high quality recording equipment. That'd be a couple things right off the top of my head. And
it's funny, the water and blessed water was something that came to my mind, but also was a couple high quality video cameras, at least a couple to get several angles so I could film it and document it.
I would add that I would actually get several spy cameras. So very, very small, very stuff that doesn't, like the little cubes, several things. There's a lot of things you can get and set them up. If I can get good quality ones via like Bluetooth or Wi-Fi, that I would set up around the room in specific places, depending on where the person is seated and or placed, because I want to catch them. I want to catch angles that the witnesses won't see. So like behind them, especially if they're sitting in a chair, and there's a way to put their hands behind the chair or underneath of it. I would have it on the floor looking up so I could get both angles. Stuff from above, just stuff where you wouldn't expect a camera would be, and that way, if we walked out of the room, you know, if any shenanigans going on, we could catch it. Microphones, definitely. I mean, I record that mostly for notes. But like you said, that like the video cameras set up the obvious ones, because I would set the obvious ones up with them, with the person, the subject, knowing these are the cameras and where they are. And I would almost intentionally leave a blind spot, you know, and make note of it, you know, maybe something loudly, so that, hey, you know, like talking to you guys, like, all right, I'm going to put this here and here, but we can't cover that corner over there. You know, say just loud enough that everyone can hear it, but then have the spy camera set up to cover that corner. What else? I love the whole.
I'd take a page out of your book, Kenny. Like, one of the things that came to my mind was to bring a well-seasoned and trained magician with me.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, because they'll far more advanced than me at spotting what would probably be normal to them, seeing tricks of the trade. That not saying that someone doing an exorcism would know it's a trick of a magician trade, but I think that behaviorally they could spot things and see them for what they are if it's trying to be false.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think we can learn sleight of hand techniques without realizing that they're sleight of hand techniques. If you do it repeatedly over and over again, the practice makes perfect kind of thing, and you're just so good at it, especially when you're in the environment that you're already well adjusted to. Like, I know my house better than any outsider. I know what boards will creak. I know where I can hide things. I know all this stuff better than anyone coming into my house. So you'll have that sleight of hand kind of advantage in that respect. But if you bring a trained magician in that looks for that, they're not looking for the distraction. You know, it's always, hey, you know, look at this. This is the distraction. This is what you're supposed to look at, while the other hand is doing stuff off camera or out of sight. That's what magicians are going to be looking for. They're looking for the out of sight things, and we'll pick it apart. I would definitely have a camera up top looking straight down too. I want an overhead view, because that perspective, I've seen that used in the past. And that's just amazing, the kind of details that you pick up overhead.
Yeah, I think equipment-wise, I'd want to probably monitor and record as many environmental factors as I could. I'd want to bring vibration sensors, stress sensors, because they always report object movement, vibration, shaking. I'd probably record and measure electromagnetic fields to see if anything's happening there. Some sort of data logging voltage sensor, because they do report weird things with the lighting going on. So you'd want to document all that stuff if it actually does happen, so you can go back later and kind of try to see if there's any real physical effects or impacts on the environment, as opposed to what people perceive and tell you they think is going on.
Right.
I mean, temperature sensors, all that, because they report it gets ice cold in there. And so I would monitor anything environmental I could.
I don't know if JD's question means this or not, but he does bring up the point that it's if the three of us, were offered to attend an exorcism under strict controlled conditions, does that mean someone else is already running this and they have restrictions in place? Because we'd have to know what those restrictions are. And then, I mean, most of this stuff that we're talking about might be covered already. But I'd like to know what they're watching for. And then therefore, I mean, we're speculating here, but there's unknown factors. We don't know what this allegedly possessed person is claiming to do or be until we get there. So we're going off of a general idea, like, you know, what we already have in our head. Like, all right, maybe this will happen. We got to check. Like, I mean, I think we're all thinking of, like, we have to check for a hoax. Definitely, we have to, you know, take care for a hoax. But if something is happening, we want to the environmental conditions to monitor that too. But we need to know specific claims. Like, are they levitating? Are they speaking in tongues? Are they, you know, is the voice coming out of their mouth like, oh my God, Oh my god. You know, echoing and like, you know, movie quality Dolby digital sound coming out, you know, like we need to know these claims and then adjust accordingly.
This is kind of weird, but I just like kind of how it goes. I would bring some really solid release of information forms. I'd like to, if possible, I'd like to, the person getting, Dave gets it, you know, I would like to get information on the medical and psychological health of
Right.
the person getting the exorcism, just in case. I mean, I would like all of it. And then I would contact someone that could much more understand and be much more qualified to review it.
Right.
And give an opinion, just in case. And then we had, hold on, I missed it. I lost it. What about this? So let's say we were there and a demon popped out. I guess that's what we're saying. With a fiddle.
What about asking? I am not challenging him to a duel, a violin duel. Nope.
Not on a violin, no. But I'll talk. I would definitely want to
asking,
have some
talking.
sort of, and we'd have to think about this, but there would definitely be some sort of line of questioning.
Right.
Yeah, and one of the other things they're supposed to be able to do is tell you things about yourself or your history, family, whatever, that nobody else knows. So I would kind of have something in my mind, like I'd almost be trying to broadcast it to them, something that nobody else would know, to see if they come up with it.
Yeah, I mean, and I think that's hard. I mean, I know that I'm on social media and I'm out there, so there's a lot of information about me. So it's not really hard to find things about me. So it would have to be specific information.
Right.
All right. Yeah. I mean, I'll play along. And when I say play along, I'm not trying to be like derogatory or, you know, insulting. It's just, I don't think demons exist. That's blatant. I mean, I'll just come out and say it. I don't think demons exist. I don't think possession is real. I think it's more of a psychological / medical issue, or sometimes attention. But I'm willing to go there, see what's going on, and if this is how it's playing out, how the situation is playing out, then yes, I'm gonna engage. Like, okay, tell me what do you have to say? Talk to me. Tell me something. You know. Do you see the future? Do you see in the, you know, my past? Do you see, you know, what I did last night? what's going on? You know?
Yeah.
But if they tell me like, oh, you drink too much, everybody knows that. Hello.
Hey, tell me something we don't know.
Yeah, we all know that. My entire podcast career is based off of drinking. Hello.
I would ask for the demon to meet me at a university research center.
Yeah, but I think that would be great. But I think part of it is, you got to at least be somewhat within the context of how they say this happens and where it occurs. So a lot of times, I guess they do exorcisms at religious sites or churches, and they'll do them at homes sometimes too. But that doesn't mean you can't secure and control those conditions either. You could do that.
Mm-hmm. My question would be, what's the point?
If it's a religious aspect, I think the whole idea is that you take it to a religious spot to have the power over it. And actually, this is a good test. They're supposed to squirm and not be very comfortable at a religious site. So it would be really cool. Basically, make it somehow so you blindfold them, you drive around, they don't know where you're going. You lead them into either a church or not a church. And in the church, you find a room that you can somehow stage that looks like just a normal hotel room or something.
Right.
And see if they react the same.
Mm-hmm.
So that's how I would kind of do it in the field. It would be a lab controlled condition, but you would just have to stage it and make it look like certain things to see, see if they react to all this stuff they say that happens. I want to see if it happens.
But when I say what's the point, I mean, like, if I'm talking to this alleged demon, like, that's what I'm asking. What's the point? Why, if you're real, why are you possessing this person? Are they a person of influence? Are they, like, why would you go through this whole thing where you're, you know, throwing things or making things move around, and the priest has to come to the room and do this whole right. What are you getting out of it? I don't see any progress. I don't see any accomplishment here. It's wow, you possessed a body and you made her. And I'm going off of sci-fi. I'm totally going to admit this, but you made her look ugly. You made her say some weird things. But what's the point? The end game. What's your end game?
In a deep voice, he'd probably say, "Well, I got you 3 idiots to show up and waste time on this."
That's right. This is research, bitch.
That's a good one too, JD. Hire a real priest versus someone dressed in a Halloween costume as the control and experimental conditions. Yep, that's a good one.
I'll do that. I can play a priest.
I like that.
Although I am ordained by the Universal Life Church.
Well, then we have to. You can't do it.
I like how your voice smoothed over with that one. I am ordained.
I am ordained by Universal Life Church and like 4 others.
I'm open for weddings on weekends.
I can do everything.
Here's a good question. I think us 3, at least for the beginning, I think we've all kind of talked about this at one point or another, and that's how do you test a one-off event? I mean, I'll go ahead. For example, when I was 11, within a month of my grandfather's passing, I was sitting alone in my parents' living room, and I swear I saw his presence walking down our steps. He looked at me and then vanished. Happened with my great-grandmom. 2 years later, same thing.
Well, just short of knocking off your family members one at a time to see if you see them. We're going to have to come up with another plan.
Sorry, Uncle Ben. This is for science. Boom!
So the first, I mean, I'll just jump in real quick. The first thing I do is start looking at, when did they die? How much did you know about when they died? Were you thinking of them? I mean, to me, the first thing would be questions, lots of questions to verify timing and what happened. So what did he say within a month? Okay. And then he's, I guess the one thing that'd be interesting to me is getting a list of all your family and friends. And then if somebody passes away, it's hard. If it's distant family, it's kind of hard because you always find out if somebody dies in your family. I mean, the true way to look at it would be almost to not let you know somebody died and see if you experience that and see that person in a certain time period. But that's really hard to do these days.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's the best.
I'm not sure you can actually test it. I think this is more of collecting data to see what the chances are that you knew they died and that they would appear within a certain time period, and if you were thinking about them. To me, this is a math problem, and this has been these studies have been done. There's a big one that just came out on people seeing loved ones after they die, after death communications, and there's old studies that go back looking at crisis apparitions, and they actually ran the math on it, and they figured out in order for people to have this many experiences of it being timed roughly around when somebody died, you'd almost need like 420. It was below chance by 420 fold. So they're like, there has to be something to it. Either we're missing the fact that they're finding out about it, or the data's faulty, or they really, for whatever reason, people are experiencing this within a certain time period around somebody's death. I guess the one-off stuff, the way you really do that in a real analytical way is you collect the one-off events from a huge number of people and start asking all those questions I mentioned when I first started talking about this, and then start running some numbers, because you can figure out how many people die, how many people are thinking of somebody, and how long they might be thinking about them after their death. So yeah, I mean, it's a math problem. You'd have to collect a lot of cases and just analyze it.
Yeah, I don't think you can. I mean, if we take a one-off just by itself, you can't test it, because it's something that, I mean, by definition, it's a one-off. It only happened one time. and we're not, well, in this case, it's a 2-off because he said it happened 2 years later. I do have a question though. Bob, you say that you saw his presence walking down. Like, what do you mean by presence? Did you see like as if he was alive and you saw like a solid body walking there, like he was actually there? Or was it something more or less that you kind of just felt and saw in your head? I don't know. But going with that, it's just a one-off is really hard because, especially when you're talking about how many years ago was this? He says he was 11 and then 13 when his grandmom passed. So this is going back, I'm going to estimate here, like 20, 30 years maybe. I mean, that's a long time and details fade. Like, were you grieving? Was this a few days after? Was this really immediate? Were you really close to your grandparents? Like, I mean, I was really close to my grandparents and it really hit me hard when they passed. And were you thinking about it? Was this at night? Oh wait, by the way, I now do not believe I actually saw them as ghosts. After learning about stage 1 sleep, where you can think you're awake and you're really asleep. Damn it, Bob, this is where I was going. I think it was stage 1 sleep. I was not okay because I mean, you said you were in your parents' bedroom. You were sitting alone in your parents' bedroom, and I was going to say like living room. Oh, okay, parents' living room. All right, my bad. I was wondering if like this was like at night, if you were tired, if you were about to doze off or something like that, and maybe you did doze off, and this was part of a dream. So it's really hard. Again, this is all speculation. We can run the numbers like Dave was explaining, gathering data from like multiple experiences, hundreds of other experiences. But to test this specific event, I don't think we can because, I mean, first, it's in the past.
Yeah.
So we don't know all the conditions that were present at the time.
The question is though, sorry, one comment. Why would it only happen one time though? And then after that one time, you're obviously thinking of that person. Why did it not happen again?
Right. Maybe he's drunk. I'm sorry. I'm just biased.
Well, I think from just memory, like when it comes to one-off events, like I'm pretty sure like even amongst all three of us in different conversations have kind of come to the conclusion it's just, I mean, how are you going to do it? Like, how are you going to say, this person says I saw a ghost at this house. How do you go back and test that they saw a ghost at that house?
Right.
There's just some things like, I'm grateful Dave's here and he's got this vast knowledge on how to statistically look at probability of stuff. I mean, that's far outside my wheelhouse too. But I mean, how would you do a one-off event? Maybe, I guess if the one-off event was you were at a house and the doors started opening and closing, I mean, the best you could do is go back and test the doors, test if it was part of a physical event. But seeing things, experiencing things, it's difficult to test like someone else's experience.
Yeah. And I see like Bob's comments that he was saying that it was late at night and it was 30 years ago. So, I mean, this is, details fade over time. And as much as we think our memory is good, we can remember things. We don't do it that well. And it's hard to say what kind of emotional state you were in. And if it was late at night, maybe you were sleeping. So,
but it's a one-off for Bob, but for the thousands of other people that report similar experiences, you can take what they're reporting and try to design at least some sort of study where maybe people see people they didn't know that died. And if you can confirm that and gather testimony and eyewitness statements of what they said they saw at the time, then go back and get death certificates to see when people died. And, there's ways to do it, but it's going to be really time consuming.
Yeah.
But they have looked at these retrospective studies where they collect all these case studies, and thousands of people have similar experiences, just like you, Bob. And there have been at least now 2 major ones that you can find them published, and it's very similar to what you reported. And it does fade, and everybody else has shown that within 12 to maybe it's more than that. I thought it was 12 to 24 months. Those one-offs start fading when you see a loved one. So there's some trends that are interesting, and I think the only way to do it, honestly, though, to be realistic, is probably just case collection and then analyze it.
So do you think it might be more psychological rather than actual?
It's obviously part of the bereavement process.
That's what I'm going with.
Major studies have been published on sensing, feeling, seeing a loved one, and it fades after a while, and it is part of the bereaving process. However, the ones that are more interesting are when you can verify the person had the experience pretty much right at the time or within minutes of the time of death of somebody. And the ones that get more interesting to me are you had no idea this person was sick, no idea they were in danger, that they had a freak car accident and they died, and all of a sudden you saw them or they spoke to you and you swore they were in your house, and then only later do you find out that they passed away at that exact time. Now that's getting a lot harder to rule out, you not knowing or finding out about it really quick with text messaging and email.
Right.
And everybody's all over social media. And I mean, something bad happens to somebody's family member, I think we all know about it within probably, even if you're not close to them, you know about it within a couple hours.
Yeah.
So that's getting harder to prove. So the older studies are a little more interesting when they didn't have all this fancy communication.
And that's always been, I guess, my beef with studies. And I'm going to say it right. This is my disclaimer. I have not read these studies that you're referring to, or but when I read them, I guess in books, when I read about these cases in books, my beef is always there's not enough information. Like, not each individual case is usually, from my perspective, is investigated. It's usually taken as this is an experience, this is what they reported, and it's because it takes so much time to look into each case. It's almost impossible. I mean, if you're talking like you have 1,000 participants, you would need, especially pre-internet days, you would need, I would say, like a week at least to interview each participant to get all the details. So you're talking 1,000 weeks to thoroughly investigate each case. So
yeah,
I guess where I'm going at
studies back in the day, they spent a shit ton of time. I mean, they didn't have computers to sit around and type and stuff, but they followed up, letters, eyewitness testimony, death certificates. I mean, they spent a crap ton of time, and that's why it hasn't been repeated in any large scale, because it's so freaking time consuming,
right,
for all the reasons you just said.
Yeah. All right. I got nothing else to say about that. I mean, that's kind of where we are. We're
yeah.
I don't know where to go from there. So
I think I saw another queue around here somewhere.
I love everyone's using the queue. I love that. Makes it easier to find the questions.
You've branded that from your show.
That's okay.
So, how do we pass drug tests?
What about doing?
I think she was talking about the exorcism stuff. I would assume that's already been done long before we get there, and they should not be doing a freaking exorcism unless they've had the medical and psych workup.
Right.
I study for all my drug tests.
Yeah, and I mean, I would always suggest it.
Is that why Tim's asking us to pee in a bottle all the time?
Again. I mean, I would always suggest it. I mean, yeah, if we're coming onto a scene, and this is my assumption going back to this question, this case, if we are coming onto the scene of an exorcism that's already planned, like scheduled out, we're invited to go. I'm already assuming, and there's a caveat with that, I'm assuming that drug tests, medical evaluation, psych evaluation has already been done. The caveat is that I want to see it all. And I think, Tim, you brought it up. Like, I want to see everything.
Mm-hmm.
Show me the records. I want to see the drug test results. I want to see the medical evaluation. I want to see the psych evaluation. I want to see what the doctors say, the professionals say, because that has a huge effect on what's going on here. Because as we've seen and we've discussed before, an exorcism is not a polite and gentle, friendly event. It can be a horrible event. So, if there is information in those records that says, no, this person is suffering from a known condition that is treatable by other means, then you better believe I'm going to do everything I can to stop what these religious people are doing. Short of laying across the person myself and keeping everyone at bay. Because
I haven't seen a lot of exorcisms, but the ones that I have been privy to, I've never seen, never look gentle, never look pleasing, which is interesting to me. I wonder why. I wonder why the idea is the rough fight, the brutality, the screaming in the face. So in other words, I guess what I'm saying is like, you're saying like you have to be aggressive with a demon to get a demon to come out and challenge you. But then you say, well, this demon is like this beast that is millions, is eternal years old and can cross dimensions. And you're going to piss this thing off to the point where it's going to fight you. Like it seems kind of arrogant at that point that you have that much ability, unless, of course, you base it on. You could go back and say that it's based on because I'm using a book that says that I have the authority to piss off a demon. But I've never seen one that didn't look brutal. I think that's a very good technique for if you're using against somebody. It might have psychological problems. I think it's disorienting to somebody. And I think at some point it is good enough that they will acquiesce to whatever the hell you want to get you to shut the hell up and stop. And at that point, you've successfully completed your exorcism.
I just want to say for anyone that's watching this, if you're in charge of an exorcism, please invite us. We would like to observe.
I think I just ruined that.
Hey, you see our opinion,
mm-hmm.
So invite us out to show us otherwise. I'm confident speaking for all of us. We're open to it.
Yeah.
Show us, show us what's going on. I'll sit in the corner. I'll be good.
I got a vacation to burn to go, so let's do it.
I've had cats for over 10 years. My life is no better or worse than anyone else's. Can we call that superstition paranormal scenario laid to rest? I would absolutely love to. Absolutely.
All in favor? Aye. Motion passes. Black cats are fine.
I mean that's a superstition. I mean, we can. How do we test that? I mean, how many people own black cats?
Black cats versus white cats.
Yeah.
Whoa, let's not make it a race thing.
Oh my God, here we go. We just took a right turn.
Yeah, but I mean that's
Skinnyville.
Okay. So look at people with black cats who have any other cat except a black cat. What's the difference?
Right.
It's kind of getting back to that whole curse thing. How do you figure out what the bad luck is and the curse?
And the good, yeah. And I looked it up real quick here. All I did was put in black cat superstition, and it looks like the origins of this bad stuff is usually because it started in Europe in the Middle Ages. As cities grew, the cat population would grow, and black cats would go around, and because they were black, they'd roam around at night, and with the glowing eyes, they became like, ooh, that's scary and spooky, and that changed into evil. But on the other side of the coin here, I'm reading that, let's see, a black cat in the audience on opening night foretells a successful play. According to local superstitions in south of France, black cats bring good luck to owners who feed them well and treat them with respect. English sailors believed that keeping a black cat happy would ensure fair weather when they went to sea. And even this is fun, to cure a sty on the eyelid, rub it with the tail of a black cat.
Well,
So
you'll get pink eye instead of the sty, but whatever.
I mean, this superstitions like this are always interesting. I love actually going into them. Maybe we can do a show on superstitions because that would be interesting. Because stuff like this, it's like, especially here in America, we get the watered down version. I'm showing my Philly accent, my watered down, watered down version of these superstitions, and most people don't realize there's a different side of it where, you know, these black cats that are like a sign of evil actually was a token of good luck for a lot of people, and they would nurture it and you know, embrace it. So looking into the history of superstitions is really fun. I definitely think that's going on my list of topics.
Well, you know, when I first started looking into witchcraft, black cats and witches came up together, and I'm trying to go back and find my bookmark on where exactly at some point they connected the two. I can't find it. It seemed like black cats were considered so. Oh boy, I'm going to do this by memory. I'm not a historian, so forgive me if I get this wrong. But at some point during those ages, during that time when witches and black cats were the vogue, evil and demons and the devil were considered an actual physical embodiment here on Earth. So it wasn't a presence of evil or the influence of evil that was the manipulation between good and evil, God and the devil. It was actually that they were here, that they were present, and witches were part of that, and they were the embodiment of that evil. And that black cats were their elementals, I guess, or
Yeah,
their
familiars.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah. And now I can't remember why the black cat got that, and it might tie into what you were talking about, because you can't see them at night and it's creepy, and you know, when they pop up and their eyes are staring at you, you piss your pants, and it just looks bad. But yeah, so that was a heavy tie, and you know, and it was, yeah, they got a really bad rap, and I don't, you know, we have a black cat, well, it's blackish cat, it's kind of more, it's calico with some black in it, but calico like a dark black, a light black, and a gray. So we keep on Halloween, we're just like everybody else, just to make sure that she doesn't go out, because you never know. But I'm all for ending that stuff. I mean, that's just ridiculous. And then somebody wants to abuse an animal because of a superstition.
Yeah,
not good. Not good.
I don't like cats. I don't like cats because I'm allergic to them. Like highly allergic to them. It's like within 10 minutes of being in a house with cats, I get like that scratchiness, and my throat starts to swell, and my lungs start like I'm breathing like.
Yep. So, I get the same thing.
Yeah. But I mean, I don't wish any bad luck on them, or like I don't wish them harm. You know, just the fuck away from me. Stay away. That's all. Hey, Nor.
Those things are pretty badass.
He's possessed for sure.
Yeah. Right. I didn't know that. UK black cats are good luck.
Oh, there you go. Awesome. Yeah, we definitely should do a show on that.
Superstitions in general?
Superstitions, yeah. I think that's going to be my pick. Don't steal it. Used to.
Oh, Bob. Bob with a tough question.
Oh, what do we got?
How do you test the stuff in Bacon's museum when you are banned?
No need to test it.
Well, so there's an easy workaround on this. There's several workarounds on this. One is that I know Mr. Baggins has a deal with TMZ. So every time he gets a new item, there's a spot on TMZ. So I get to see not only the object, but the object in the museum, and I get some background on it. So I can easily do background information and checks on that. Testing the items, I can't do that. That's just impossible for any of the items because, not only am I, not only is someone banned from the museum, me, but he doesn't let you touch any of the items. He just strictly no touch. You can't take pictures, you can't take video, you can't take audio, nothing.
How convenient.
Yeah, I know. However, another workaround is that you can contact the people that donated those items or sold those items. You can look into the history of those items, especially when they're associated with well-known celebrities, which is, like the Bela Lugosi mirror, which I did a really good in-depth investigation into. The Dybbuk box, another one. And there's other things that you can do. There's always ways around it. Plus, he's not as private as he thinks he is. So meaning that employees or former employees will give up some information if you talk to them nicely and don't mention their names. So he's not as private as he thinks he is. And that's my workaround. So yes, you can definitely, you can't test stuff per se, but you can definitely dive into the history of that object. And sometimes you come up, like with the Bela Lugosi mirror, for example.
Mm-hmm.
He really promoted that as being owned by Bela Lugosi, and Lugosi used it for scrying and all this stuff. And then the research that I did uncovered that never belonged to Bela Lugosi, like at all. So his entire premise of this story fell apart. And that's where you go. Like the Dybbuk box, the original guy admitted openly that he created the story. So the original guy that made up the story said it was a hoax. I don't know how blunt you can be. How blunter you could be about that. So yeah, so that's my workaround.
Yeah. When you get the creator of the legend that says, I made it up. What else you gonna do? Like, what else you gonna do? What else you gonna do?
Not much left to test after that.
What are you gonna do?
Maybe we should work a test where we come up with something and try to get such a great social media and internet presence about it being so haunted, it's so terrible, that we can get it into the museum. Just on that fact, but it sounds like it's already happened. So I don't know. My brain, I'm drinking, I'm thinking, I'm like, well, that's what we just said happened. Somebody
pretty much it. Yeah.
Somebody already did that. So maybe we can do like a nanobot. We'll come up with that and we'll spring it to life when it's inside the museum and do tests. Put a little camera on it, some little valves and some.
There's definitely there's other people too. I mean, it's expensive to get into that museum. When I went, I think it was $45, I think, per person to get in. And I did write about the experience. So if you want to check that out, Skeptical Inquirer, check it out, my column. But it was expensive getting in. You didn't have a lot of time, but it's in Vegas. So you think about how many millions of people cycle through Vegas every year. And if someone that I know, and I do know a bunch of people that live in the area, so I have no problem fronting the money and saying, hey, here's the cash, here's a little extra because you're doing a service for me. I'm paying you for your service. Go in there, report back to me. Give me a just an objective view. Like don't give me any like, oh, I loved it. No. What did you see? Or I mean, you can't take pictures, but you get around that because, like I said, TMZ does exclusives. So they give you pictures, they give you video. And when you do stuff online, it's much easier to use their material with credit, of course. But you don't have to pay for it. So that's my workaround.
All right. Are you guys, we're at an hour. Are you okay? Gotta go?
I'm good. I still have a little rum to go. So how do you test if groaning is a time travel? Life into meaning art.
Go back in time and tell me to invest in Apple.
Oh my God, the things we'd invest in. Let me see.
All right. Let me scroll through, make sure. I like this point. I wanted to bring it up. I think that's important.
That's too bad.
Where my cat came from. We're luckily almost out of kill shelters, but my wife ran across the black cat, and it was at the end of its time in a kill shelter. So we got
I like. I mean, we could actually what Kevin says here, Kevin Mocker. You know, we could totally do that. Between the three of us, I'm sure we can come up with an excellent backstory. But and create a character that would promote it. I mean, maybe that's something to consider. We'll have to talk about that offline. But maybe it's something to consider. Maybe that's our goal, to see if we can get something in the museum.
That'd be fun.
That would be something documented.
Maybe perhaps one of our bleeding statues, if it does so well.
You want to talk about that a little bit more?
Yeah,
it's up to Tim.
It's up to you.
Yeah, we can finish up with that. So what we got going on, or I think I kind of mentioned at the beginning, was our bleeding statues, or crying statues, or some things that we've done. So we decided to take it upon ourselves to test it and give it a shot. So actually mine is upside down, head first in a bowl of oil right now, testing.
So you're drowning it first.
I love this, that we have this project and we come at it from it's like, all right, this is what we need to make. Go do it. So I'm sure we have 3 different ways of going about it. I mean, I don't know how much we want to show. I mean, I have mine here. If you want to see it real quick, is that all right? I mean, all right. So, I mean, I'm in the final stages, so I'm waiting. So this is mine. Let me put it up here. Experiment in progress. Do not touch. So this, let me make sure. This is my statue that I'm hoping will start crying. And we followed some of the directions that we found, and so I have a full bottle of olive oil. A pint. And I want to show you something.
That is amazing.
So this is next to it. This full bottle is in here somewhere. I filled it in a hole in the bottom, and it just absorbed it. So I don't know where it is in this statue. I was just amazed that it took the entire bottle.
I am amazed.
So right now, my final stages are that it's sitting here. I did everything that I was supposed to do, and I'm just waiting for it to start weeping now. So I'm hoping. I don't know the time frame, so I know we have till next weekend or next show. So I'm hoping within the next few days it starts leaking from somewhere. I really don't know where, because I actually
either gonna cry or piss his pants.
I mean, this bottom part is felt.
Oh yeah,
it's felt, but the hole, which is like right here, that I poured it into, because I had it upside down the entire time. I poured it in, let it soak in, and did the whole thing. But I sealed this up with hot glue. So I used a hot glue gun and sealed the entire hole, and then put this over and sealed it again. So there's no other place to escape except what I did to the eyes. So we'll see. We'll see what happens.
Right.
I have it here in a box in a plastic bag just in case it does leak.
That's smart.
So he's gonna sit there and for a week, and I'll just check it every day, a couple times a day, and see what happens. So, what about you guys? How far along, or what are you up to? Oh my goodness, that's awesome!
He's been properly crucified, so we'll see if he bleeds next week.
Wow.
So yeah, basically buy this off of Amazon. It's a resin crucifixion statue, and these weren't here. They're map pins.
Oh.
So what I did, drilled in from behind, then put the map pins in there and set them up so there's a little bit of space between where the hole came through and the map pin that you can't really see unless you look at it or get it under a dissecting scope.
Yeah.
Little model rocket glue to hold the pins in place. And then Tim and Kenny know I was sending them pictures of some reddish substance that seems to come out of these type of statues that, holy shit, it had blood in it. It had human blood in it. It's amazing. So I'll kind of reveal that part of it next week when we go over these.
I'm telling you, Dave, right off the bat, I was like, Dave is all out on this one. He was showing pictures of slides under microscopes. I'm like, all I got is hot glue and toothpicks. He's got blood coming out of university somewhere.
But the key was to get a substance that I could chill it without destroying the blood cells, that they'd be in there long enough. And the whole idea is to load it when it's cold, and then as it warms up to room temperature, it'll start oozing out of the holes.
Okay.
But there should be real human blood in there, and we might have to do the hydrogen peroxide test as well.
That is great.
Shit. I should have done that. I have luminol.
Yeah.
I have a bunch of luminol. Yeah. That would
I specifically went back to what I knew about preserving different types of cells and bought the specific material I needed to preserve the cells in the cold that make it thick, but it'll still flow when it heats up.
Okay.
So that all those years of college and grad school, it finally paid off to make a statue blade. Thank God.
Finally.
My parents would be so proud.
I mean, honestly, let's just be serious.
This is a cool experiment. I mean, I really loved it. I'm excited about it because it's like, if this works, and I'm hopeful, and my wife doesn't think it's going to work, but I'm hopeful. I don't know if it's going to work or not. But if it does, oh my God, that'd be so fucking cool.
Oh, I wish I would have brought the book up. I stumbled across, I think, your technique in some old book I had, on unexplained mysteries across the globe. So I don't know if the material they proposed or the oil or whatever they used is similar to what you did, but you might be onto the right track here.
Yeah, we'll see. It's not. I don't know what it is. I'm guessing it's plastic. Or not plastic. Plaster.
Is it?
It's
plaster. Okay.
Plaster.
Because mine's a resin. It's weird.
It's light. I mean, it's a Precious Moments statue. It's very light inside. I actually I took a screwdriver and. So imagine this: I'm out on my porch, in front of the entire block, and I'm holding this like this, with a screwdriver going.
Pouring oil into the backside.
Pounding it. No, I'm pounding it with a screwdriver. And then, pour some oil in. There you go.
Porcelain.
So yeah, it might be porcelain. I mean, I think it is porcelain, but it looked like a different material inside. Like, I don't know if the previous owner maybe filled it in to make it heavier, because it's not hollow. It wasn't hollow, but the material that was inside of it was porous. Because obviously, I mean, it took the entire bottle. I mean, it's
let's see what happens. If I wonder, heat it up a little bit might help.
That's what I was thinking. Maybe if I put it out like in the cold and then brought it in to heat it up, maybe the thermal expansion will hit the oil and make that kind of flow through the porous material. So we'll see.
Yeah, it's going to be fun next week.
I don't know.
The reveal.
I'll be
So what are you-
slicing the shit out of this thing all week.
What are you doing, Tim?
Yeah, mine.
Besides yours is growing horns and it's upside down.
All that. So yeah, mine looks like mine doesn't the actual well you saw it doesn't look like these, but the design is like Kenny, so it's hollow on the inside. I'm pretty sure mine's porcelain or some type of like porcelain material. So I did a couple, well, you saw where the horns were. And I just thought, well, I wonder if I could do the capillary action thing. And so so when we drilled and got what we needed, my wife helped with she was like, you need some hot glue. And she's making dragon eggs for a
Nice
Harry Potter weekend thing we got coming up.
So Carol, shouldn't you be trying to mimic church conditions? What are church conditions?
Yeah, like what's the church condition? I mean, I understand if you have like an empty church, maybe over the weekend, and they don't have the heat up, and then all of a sudden they do turn the heat on, but then they have a couple hundred bodies in there, and it heats it up, and that's what we were talking about, like with the heat. Like I've been coming over for today because this morning, I think I did it this morning. This morning I sealed it up. So I've been coming over and just going, like this, or just holding my hands like around it just to get some heat going.
Yeah.
But otherwise, it's been in here at almost room temperature. I might put it down on the heater.
Okay.
But I don't want to. Like I just wanted to sit here and I wanted to start fucking crying.
John Kennedy with a reference to, I believe, The Reaping, right? I've seen that movie. That was good. And then Carol, temperature, material, statues are. Mm-hmm. Well, temperatures we could probably mimic in the homes. Materials, when I looked at it, the only difference between what I bought and what Kenny and Tim bought is probably that the materials we have are very similar to what you see in the churches, minus concrete and minus about a $3,000 price tag for bigger things.
Yeah. I want to go into that a little bit. That my wife and I did go to what's called a St. Jude store that sells a lot of religious stuff. It's a religious store. That's what it is, which is really cool because I've never been in one. And holy shit, you can buy like the awfully tasting wafers that they give out at communion. You can buy them in a jar of like 200 or 1,000. I didn't know that. You could buy the robes. You can start your own church. I was very excited about this. But going through there, we went there specifically to look at the statues because I was curious. Like, okay, these statues are usually larger. They're usually decent size, like bigger than what we have. So I was interested, like, all right, are we talking like $100, $200? Because if it was like anything under $100, I might buy it. But yeah, they were like $400, $500, $600 for maybe like a 3.5, 4 foot statue. But even those statues were not ceramic. They were not plaster. They were more of like a plastic. They were almost like Christmas ornaments that you put out on your lawn.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they're like a resin composite, I think.
Yeah, and they were pieced together because I went up and actually picked up a Jesus one, and the arms from the shoulders here you could take them off. And I was like, oh, I don't know. And it feels hot, like really hollow. Mm-hmm. As in, like, if I drilled a hole in the head, this is funny talking about this. If I drilled a hole in the head and poured in a bunch of oil, it would just go down into the body. Like it was a holiday ornament. So if like we went for the traditional statues that you see and the size that is reported, we won't be able to afford it. There's no way. You're talking like $1,000 at least for that.
Well, I think the concept's the same. I mean, if
Yeah,
you could,
and that's the point. It's the same concept. We're using it's same materials.
mm-hmm,
We're just not using the same size.
mm-hmm.
But we're also not pouring in like a gallon of oil,
Mm-hmm.
you know, so that it continually weeps for like weeks. So yeah, I think what we're doing is a scaled down version, but it's still significant in the results that hopefully we'll get.
And a lot of those, nobody ever came, at least very few of them, they came out and said exactly how the hoax was being perpetrated. So I think the point of this one is, at least to me, is to more or less to show different ways that it could be done by just three general dudes buying a couple things and playing around with it for 3 weeks, really.
Right.
And that's like, if it's that simple and somebody else had that much time to put it, a big statue, you have more to work with, material and space.
Right.
Pretty sure there can be some pretty elaborate things that can get done. And Carol, yeah, I know churches get hot. I spent a lot of time in there when I was a kid, and it gets hotter than hell, and I could never stay awake. And then my brother and sister and I'd all be fighting because we're hot and pissed off. And it was, yeah, my parents loved it when they took us to church.
Can you see?
That's yeah.
Bowl.
Oh, there you go. Okay, yeah. Nice.
Yeah. So far, you can see my little mark there to see if he's absorbing any oil. Maybe not on the bowl. Cool. It's a really good woodworking job there.
Kevin's asking a question about this.
Mm-hmm. What we got?
At the bottom here. How is the oil going to come out? Why won't it just stay at the base because of gravity? So, I mean, I think for me and Tim, I think at least, I don't know your process. Like, this is the box that I kept it in, and it literally was like this for the last 2 weeks. And I would pour in the oil here until it seeped in, until it was gone. And then I would pour in until the entire bottle was gone. And then even after it was gone, I gave it 2 days before I took it out and sealed the bottom. So if we're talking about gravity, yes, everything should have seeped down into the head so far. That's my guess. I don't know for sure. I can't see into this, but I'm guessing all the oil is right here. So what I did was you probably won't be able to see it. I'm going to try it and show you. But the bottom of the eyelids there, I used a razor blade and cut in slits. But because it's there's already indents there, you can't really tell that I cut anything. So I'm thinking the gravity already took care of putting the oil in the head. And now that there's an opening, the only opening for this to get out, and now I'm turning it upside down, I'm hoping that it flows out. I don't know for sure. I really don't.
Well, my understanding is like with the capillary action, like what we had talked about, if all the porous material is filled with oil, it should not matter where the scratch is or the opening. Once it begins to seep, it will actually flow to that area.
Yeah, because the rest of the statue is going to serve as a reservoir.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And it's going to pull it up and out. And actually, job before my last one, we did a lot of work with controlled releases, and a lot of those were essential oils. And we had these different types of permeable matrices that we used. And you'd get it in there and you would seal the top and the bottom, but you'd leave the edges open, almost like Kenny. And well, in some ways we used capillary action. We'd put other stuff in there like Tim did, and you'd leave the edges open so the essential oils would basically leach out of the edges. And it kept coming out of the edges because you had a higher concentration on the inside, a lower concentration on the outside, and it would flow towards that lower concentration, it would be pushed to the edges because the top two barriers were actually, resistant or repellent to it. So it'd only push it out the sides where it could get out, similar to notching it like Kenny did. And sometimes we'd put in almost like wicking material in these things to help it flow through capillary action to keep it flowing. But the whole idea is there's a reservoir there and it keeps pulling it up and it comes out. That would be the concept, I would assume. Now, if it happens, we'll find out next week.
Just for Ron's comment there, no, it does not evaporate. I put olive oil in there and it does not evaporate. So that's not a concern. What happens, it gets absorbed into not really absorbed. It's a porous material, which is inside. So the oil actually creeps into all the crevices, all the open cavities that are inside, even the very, very, very tiny ones. But no, it does not evaporate.
Did you seal yours, Tim?
What's that?
Did you seal yours?
Yes.
You talked about sealing it to where you wouldn't have it unless the seal would hold everything in unless wherever you have it coming up or you nick it or whatever you're doing.
Right. Yeah. I was going to say with this, I'm thinking like the optimal. My understanding is you want a closed environment. You want a sealed environment. So if I've missed a nick or a scratch or something in my statue, then it's quite probable that it's going to go out already. But I've got spray, waterproofing spray. I'm doing the best. We're going to see. So yeah,
we could learn a lot of things here.
Yeah, I mean this is first and foremost a learning experience. None of us have done this before. So we're kind of going off of what people have done before us, and we're trying it and seeing what happens. I don't know, like what you said, Tim. Like this has been upside down for the last week and a half, 2 weeks, since we talked about it, and absorbing the oil, and it hasn't leaked anywhere. So I'm confident that the paint that's on the top of this is a good seal because I have not seen any kind of leaks at all. I had it in the box for a reason, just for that, because I didn't want to get yelled at. And now that I have it this way, maybe like somebody said, Kevin said that maybe it's just going to go back down to the feet, unless it's full. That might be true.
Yeah.
I really don't know.
That could happen. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
We don't know.
That's
I'm shocked you got a whole bottle in there.
That's why I sealed the bottom. So there's hot glue covering the entire hole. So it's not like it's going to seep out into the felt on the bottom. Right. It's all sealed up. So it's got nowhere to go. But if it goes to the bottom and just pulls there, all right, experiment failed. I don't know. I probably the next thing I'll do is probably drill a hole like in the top here somewhere, and then do it that way and see what happens. But I'm trying. I'm seeing what happens. That's all I can say.
This is good. Like, I mean, it'd be suspicious if all three worked.
Yeah.
The probability is.
We'll see what happens next week.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, I could just as easily get a plastic syringe that you can pick up almost anywhere, like craft stores and stuff. I could get a small plastic syringe. I could take a little oil and put it just right on the tips here and just be like, oh, look, I took video. Look, it started crying. It started weeping. But I don't want to do that. And I have taken video of every step of the process. So when we're done, hopefully when we successfully have a weeping statue, I'll put it all together, and we'll have a video of all of us doing this. So
a failure is still a success.
Yes, yeah. Learn how not to do it.
Looking forward to next week then.
All right,
boys.
Yep.
All right.
Any questions?
Yeah.
No, I don't see any. All right.
What do I have? I have something coming up. Oh, next week, Friday night, 9:00, Skeptical Help Bar. My guest will be Paul Michael Kane. He is a well-known, he's a very famous photographer and graphic designer. He's done work for Star Wars. Oh my God, he's done work for that.
Cool.
And he does a lot of work. We're actually going to do like an active double duty kind of analyzing photos. So if you have ghost photos or UFO photos, Bigfoot, whatever, send them to me and we're going to analyze them live. He's a much better photographer than I am. And we actually did some work together a couple days ago, and which led to this. So he's going to be on the show. If you're not busy Friday night, come on by.
Cool.
Other than that, I'm done.
All right.
All right.
I've got a weeping statue experiment going on.
Yep, me too. That's about it.
COVID.
That's it right now.
Yeah.
All right.
All right. All right. Well, we'll see. Thanks everybody for listening. Let me find my exit video here under brand. All right, everybody.
Yep.
Have a good night.
All right.
Don't for trust, don't for trust, don't for trust. Demons are real, those what they need. Aliens are real, Bigfoot is real. Don't question me, demons are out. Aliens out, demons out. Those that are real, hiding on TV. Don't for trust, don't for trust, don't for trust, don't for trust. And all what you say, oh, you'll get together.